It's an Ask LOJ edition, so we're answering all the big questions of Jazz fans. But first, we're looking at the last three plays of the game and how the Jazz pull off a win against Dallas. It's next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 bum.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as on YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening. We also have the free daily newsletter, Locked on Jazz. Today, you'd get Empty the Noggin exclusive on the newsletter, plus exclusive National Katie Heindel article, plus Josh Lloyd's fantasy breakdowns. It is the one stop for all NBA newsletters. We link to the most important stories. We'll give you everything you need to know, not just Locked On, but nationwide. So go grab it. It is the number one all-stop newsletter. It's at lockedondaily.com. Sign up for the Locked on Jazz newsletter for free. Thank you very much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen, as well as to the everydayers you are, what makes this click. By the way, I have stickers. I have lots of really cool purple stickers this year. So if you're at a game, feel free to come by and visit me for that. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, start the season with a big return. New customers place $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, today's show, Ask LOJ. So we'll get to a bunch of questions. Is John Collins' trade value as high as ever? Do any of the youngsters have an alpha personality? We've won 3 of 5. Is that okay? Is there someone we should play at point guard other than Keyonte George? Do we foul at the rim in transition? Good questions coming across. We'll also look at the Jazz. We talked about Jazz transition defense. Well, guess what? Last night they won because they did exactly what we said on yesterday's show needed to be done. It does happen to be that the Jazz had a film session yesterday, and the film session was largely about changing ends of the floor and doing better than they have before. So they were on point to what we talked about on the show. Let's start with the final 3 plays of the game in the Jazz win over the Mavericks last night. And I want to, on video, we're going to show them to you. And on audio, I'll walk you through them. There's a bunch of very interesting things that are taking place here. So the first is KlayThompson's 3. This is actually a breakdown by the Jazz, but it shows you some of the things the Jazz are doing that they're really doing well, and why their defense in the half court is so much better. So the Jazz, John Collins has just dunked to give the Jazz a 3-point lead off Jordan Clarkson's miss. And let's see, where is volume? Okay. You don't need Mark Falwell is great. Derek Harper is right there with him, and you don't need him. All right, so Luka brings it up to the front court. They've been calling Filipowski on every pick, and so they get Filipowski up on the pick. Luka's now high right, and Derek Lively rolls to the basket, and Keyonte's on him. And watch what the Jazz do. John Collins comes in from the corner, and he will now guard Derek Lively. This is called bumping out, and the Jazz have done a marvelous job of this. This is one of the biggest Jazz defensive changes this year. They've been willing to switch, but they get the big back onto a big. Ron Boone talked about this last night that the Jazz are really insistent on making bigs guard bigs. And so John Collins comes back out. This gets really tricky for Key. I don't think it's executed very well, but this is really tricky. So Key is kind of sitting here with his back to the basket, and he really needs to be reacting pretty quickly. And ideally, he actually is going to the corner. Jordan Clarkson's guarding KlayThompson, but Jordan Clarkson's job is to shade over and impact Luka on Filipowski so he sees another body. And so here goes Jordan to go do that, and he starts to double, and Key's just late to get to KlayThompson. And so he hits the 3 because Key has started the process of heading over to Najee Marshall in the corner. So if we're going to watch it full speed now, Luka comes off the pick. Filipowski's there. There's the switch. Key's got his back turned. He's a little uncertain of where he's going. And just that little tiny itty bitty bit of kind of uncertainty where he just pauses for a second and stands there in the middle, not committing to either guy, actually blows the whole play. I'm not doing that to pick on Key because he'll make a great play here in a second. That's the level of excellence that you have to survive in this league, and that the Jazz coaching staff is trying to get these younger players to understand. Like, if you're playing in the NBA Finals and championship, you can't allow KlayThompson to get a wide open three in this circumstance. Just about cost us the game last night. And so you're now tied at 113 because you gave a 40% three-point shooter a wide open three on a play where, frankly, you didn't execute it terribly, but you also didn't execute it badly, frankly. That's, I think, the most telling thing, is it wasn't executed all that badly. All right, here comes the play of the night. Jordan Clarkson comes to the front court. We talked to Jordan after the ball game, and what Jordan said is, I saw that they were going to do what's called pre-switch. So we talked about bumping out a minute ago. Now we're talking about pre-switching. So everyone in the world knows that you're going to bring Luka Dončić to the ball. What the Jazz have done it the last few times. The Warriors did it like 7,500 straight times. Everyone knows you're bringing Luka Dončić to the ball and making Luka Dončić guard. And this is honestly so much of this league. It's just, we call it finding the pigeon. Find the one guy who you can make a play at, go shoot the pigeon, pull, and go get him. So the way some teams will do it, Draymond became the master of this when people went after Steph, is while in this case would be John Collins, is coming out to set the pick for Jordan Clarkson, somebody else comes with John Collins instead of Luka Dončić. Okay, that's, if you know they're going to pre-switch, what you do is you go early and then you bring that guy back a second time. But in this case, John Collins goes over here to the right elbow, and Luka's kind of hovering. And Luka knows, like, you can see Luka's body language. Luka knows, I'm coming up on the pick. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to get ready. And so Luka's playing about 3 feet on the top side of John Collins, which is weird, but he's doing it that way because of if you actually hear my play-by-play call, my play-by-play call goes like Luka's kind of guarding John Collins because he knows the pre-switch is coming. At this moment, Clarkson has two choices. With 11 seconds on the shot clock, Jordan Clarkson can call John Collins up. Someone else is going to come and then wave him off and then bring the next guy who has Luka up and decide whether that's going to give him enough time. And Jordan kind of, I think at this point, decided he didn't have enough time. So he waits it out. He starts here. And as you watch right here, I'm not sure why Colin Sexton leaves the corner. But if you watch this moment, watch Colin Sexton's man in the far corner. He's now he thinks he's going. See him? He slides up well above Luka. Luka's now facing Colin Sexton. So Luka really at this point thinks he's guarding Colin Sexton and thinks that John Collins, who has just taken a step forward as though he's heading up to the pass to set the pick, that is going to be guarded by whoever the fifth guy on the floor is, probably Quentin Grimes, because Marshall's on Clarkson. So what the plan here for the Mavericks is going to pre-switch this. Quentin Grimes is going to come up with John Collins. Then when they switch it, Quentin Grimes is guarding Jordan Clarkson instead of Luka Dončić. But instead, Clarkson makes eye contact with John Collins. And before the pre-switch happens, John Collins has slipped behind Luka because he was in that weird position for the dunk. It's really, really smart veteran moxie basketball right here. We'll watch it in full time. Marshall's guarding Clarkson. Collins has just slipped behind Luka. Luka is in a weird position. Colin starts to go now. Colin heads up, and there it is. Boom. They're pre-switching it. Clarkson knows it, switches behind, hits John Collins, and the Jazz are up with 8 seconds left on a beautiful play. The final one is the defensive play of the night. And Jazz do this really well, and Key particularly does this really well. So this is the final inbound play, and the Mavericks are inbounding with 8 seconds left on the game. And I got to be honest, I'm super surprised that Luka doesn't take this shot. But KlayThompson rotates, comes across. First thing the Jazz do really well is Jordan Clarkson guarding the inbounder, makes it so they can't get the ball to Klay. Really nice play by Jordan right there. Luka comes to the ball. Sexton has the matchup. So you got 6-7 on 6-1 right now. And second thing the Jazz do really well is Marshall and Thompson will interchange here. And they don't really pick or anything, but the Jazz must be on maintained defensive coverage because Clarkson stays hovering on Luka to bother Luka, Keyonte stays on KlayThompson and does not get confused by that exchange, leaving Najee Marshall, who is a 19% three-point shooter this year, a 31% three-point shooter in his career, wide open in the corner. But it might seem like, well, why would you possibly ever do this? But if a lot of teams switch everything late, and if you switch everything late, then when KlayThompson and Najee Marshall interchange on the left side of the floor, it very well could have crossed Keyonte George's mind, oh, I should go with him because that's what I've been doing all night. Maybe the Jazz run maintain here, which means you don't lose your matchup. If you're watching, just watch Keyonte. Don't watch Luka. Keyonte, the key moment, goes right up into the chest of KlayThompson and won't let the ball get to KlayThompson. That's as important as any other defensive play on this, in that Jordan Clarkson not letting the inbound come to KlayThompson, and then very well done by Keyonte to understand who he's guarding, have the personnel right, make sure he does not let KlayThompson get the ball. The other thing that was done well is a nice job by by Kyle Filipowski on Derek Lively to not get sucked into watching Luka and somehow let Lively get open behind the rim. But dropping right here, how Luka doesn't take this shot, I'll never know. 2.4 seconds left, 6'1" defender. Clarkson does a great job of digging in here to get him worried that he can't step through, but he actually has a lane. He's got the shoulder on Sexton. He probably can step through, or he could fade back, whichever he wants. Nice job by Collin, forcing him to the left, which is what the Jazz defensive system wanted on that play. Great play by Clarkson to step in and cause enough space so that Luka's thinking about giving it up. Luka's not as confident right now because he's not playing as well, so he does give it up. Nice play by Filipowski to hold on Lively. Nice play by Keyonte George to hold on KlayThompson, and that gets you a win. So that was pretty cool stuff. All right, transition. We buried the issue yesterday with more data and more this and more that. And guess what? They did exactly what we said they needed to do, and it won them a game. We're talking about it next on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street in Logan and in Linden. They want my Palisade back. I'm so sad. I've been driving the Hyundai Palisade. It's such a beautiful car. It's so fabulous. Maybe I'll get a new Palisade. And I don't know what I get. I just get whatever they want. And it has been so terrific, and I have to give it back. So I'm sad that I'll do that next week. I'm holding on to it for the road trip while I'm gone, and it's here. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, but I am. Anyway, Murdoch Hyundai with a great lineup of SUVs. The new Santa Fe is absolutely beautiful. The Palisade, the Tucson, the Ioniq 5 and 6 electric cars have won every award imaginable. If you're looking for a car, include a Hyundai, and make sure you email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com to be able to get your new Hyundai, or at least get the VIP treatment. You can decide where you're spending that kind of money. I'm not going to tell you to do that, but I'm going to tell you that we will give you great VIP treatment over at Murdoch Hyundai. Today's show is also brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates, perks usually reserved for high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of the high net worth to any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply with product-specific disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. See what the YouTube community had to say this week on some of the questions that we always ask over on YouTube. You can subscribe, get our poll questions. Last night, I asked what was the most crucial moment in the Jazz win over the Mavericks. 68% said Jordan Clarkson's pass to John Collins. 13% said Luka giving it up with a chance to tie. 12% Jordan Clarkson's prayer with like 8 minutes left to beat the shot clock. And 7% took John Collins' dunk. What aspect of Luka Dončić's current performance surprises you the most? 60% said lower shooting percentage on open threes. 21% said struggles in isolation. And 14% said decrease in pick and roll efficiency. And we asked you, what do you think is the main reason for the Utah Jazz struggles in transition defense? 59% said high number of live ball turnovers. 27% said lack of focus on defensive transition strategies. 7% said poor defensive positioning after shots, and 6% said others, and were asked to specify poor roster, lack of talent. All right. This is exactly what the Jazz did right last night. So yesterday, we did an entire show for the everydayers. If not, go back and get it. Thought it was good. I like those shows. I'm proud of those shows, so I hope you enjoy them. 22 chances a night we are allowing in transition, the most by any team in the NBA. We're allowing 36 points by the most by anyone in the NBA. Last night, instead of 22 chances, we allowed 18. Right on, a little bit closer to the league average. Not the league average. Unfortunately, that's still higher than league average, but it's better. And it's 2 games in a row we've actually been better. Phoenix didn't run much on us. Here's what we did. We allowed, of those 18, 8 of them off of a turnover, live ball turnover. It's right about what we've been doing all season long. We allowed 2 off of a make. Those are kind of inexplicable. League average is once a night. For some reason, our average is 2.3. But the big thing is we had been allowing, and this was probably my biggest point of yesterday's show, as much as we talk about this being a live ball turnover problem, it's not. We have been allowing 13 chances in transition every night off misses. 39% of all of our misses were turning in to transition opportunities. Well, last night we missed 42 shots. And instead of allowing 39%, which was kind of the obnoxious, super high rate, league average is 28, which would have been an incredible 16 times we allowed someone to play in transition last night. Instead, what we did last night is we allowed 8. So on our 42 misses last night, we were at 19%, well below league average of allowing them to get out in transition. It's why we won. Like, the Jazz won last night because Jordan Clarkson makes a great pass to John Collins in the recency bias. But in the big picture of 48 minutes, the Jazz won last night's game because on 5 possessions of the night, instead of allowing them to go get up in the front court, in the transition, we made them play in the half court, and we're better defensively by about 2.5 points per, and that's a 1.5. Like, we saved a 1.5, 2 points in transition. Wins you a ball game. So they did exactly what we talked about yesterday, and they took the number from 13 times after a miss, and which would have been 15 or 16 at the rate we were at, down to 8. 18 still a lot, but it's better than we were. It's good work. And the fact is, someone came up to me yesterday who had heard the show and said, well, the entire film session the other day with the players was on that. So you're on it. All right, great question came in on our Ask LOJ portion of the show. How often do we foul at the rim in transition compared to league average? Could that be part of our transition defensive issue? So I don't think we foul very often at the rim. So that's an interesting question. I do not have the answer. I like the question, so I put it in there, even though I don't really have the answer. And on how often foul, but the points per attempt does count that. So our points per attempt that we're looking at and analyzing does count that. Is aware of and does put that into its analysis. So that makes so that is accounted for in the statistics. But I don't think we foul very often. In fact, I would say we play Olay transition defense more often on that. Here's the question everybody wants to know. Jazz have won 3 of 5. Don't do me like that. They better go 0-4 on the road trip or I'm getting mad, not riot. This is from a longtime listener because they have all the inside jokes. So I love it every day, or you're the best. Come get a sticker next time you're at the game. Sign up for the newsletter every day or at lockedondaily.com. The Mavericks are smoking us on the newsletter. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to lie. It's not even close. They're like killing. Nick is killing me right now. So I need you to sign up. I asked him, like, what'd you do to get all signed? He's like, I told him I didn't want to lose to the Jazz. I was like, oh. So Maverick fans are more upset to losing to the Jazz than Jazz fans are to losing to Mavericks, evidently. Okay, well, maybe not today. Go to lockedondaily.com. I get it. I actually think this is legit, right? Like I was joking with Alan Horton, who's the play-by-play announcer of the Minnesota Timberwolves, that I super appreciate them losing 2 in a row to the Portland Trailblazers, considering it helps our chances to get Cooper Flagg and the fact that we built their roster for them. And so it's nice of them to give that back to us. And the fact that if they lose games, it's good for our draft position too. So thanks. It was a super good day for us that Minnesota lost twice to Portland. Same thing with us. The fact is we have to play competitive games. We need to play close games. This is only the second time all year we've led going into the fourth quarter. And you just can't get blown out and get your hand to every single night. It just is, unless you decide that there's not a single player on the roster that has value. What Oklahoma City basically did was decided there wasn't a single player on their roster that was ever going to play in a meaningful minute for them. And so they just didn't care if they went 14, 15 and 70. I mean, that may be where we get to here, where we decide that none of these guys, right? Like that would be terrible. But that's what they did. And then they just sat Shea out for the next one. If you think some of these players might be a part of something, you have to play the game right and play competitive basketball. And you have to compete. You have to compete. I thought this was a great question. Do any of the youngsters 3 years or less stand out to you as an alpha or a leader personality? There are flashes where I see good players and good pieces to a team, but no one strikes me as the leader. I think this is a really, really, really good question. So this is Walker Kessler, Keyonte George, Brice Sensabaugh, Taylor Hendricks, Isaiah Collier, Cody Williams, Johnny Juzang's 3 years or less, and Kyle Filipowski. I'll touch on that when we continue coming up on Locked on Jazz. Really great question. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel, right now, win your first $5 bet, and you get $150 in bonus bets. That's right. America's #1 sportsbook is letting you tackle all the NFL action, hoop it up in the NBA with the first new customers get $5 bet. We can bet $5 and win. They get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of games, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and the official sportsbook of Locked On. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Free and available. That's our deal. We're free. Podcast apps, YouTube, and now the newsletter, LockedOnDaily.com. All right, let's go back to that question. That was a really good question. So let me go reverse order. And let me say this. The difference between Keyonte George and Brice Sensabaugh this year compared to last, and Taylor Hendricks just as a personality before he got injured, is so dramatic. So dramatic. They're loud. They talk. They root guys on. They know the plays. Brice in practice knows every play. As always mentioned, Keyonte sat out of practice at San Antonio. His shoot around was like, instead of sitting in the corner quietly during that shoot around, was engaged and rooting guys on and trying to play. So some of this develops. Some of this, even if you are an alpha or a leader personality, I don't think you're showing it in year one. I think you're just trying to survive. And frankly, I think Brice Sensabaugh and Keyonte right now are just trying to survive as well in year two. Like, it's not going great for either of them statistically right now. And Brice's minutes are going away, and Keyonte, some tough stuff there. So I don't think Walker does not have alpha that. Johnny Juzang doesn't have the clout inside the locker room for that. If Keyonte were to play well and be that guy, I think he has some of that, or he's trying to figure it out. I actually think that Brice Sensabaugh naturally is a really smart basketball player and sees plays and understands them and could do that. And my guess is that Isaiah Collier has a little of this. But at this moment, it's too early for them to portray that. This was an interesting question. Is it time for someone other than Keyonte George at the point guard? Maybe. This is a good question. And I'll bet you it's a conversation the coaches are having. I think this is whoever sent this question in. I think you have a good read on kind of when discussions are taking place. So last night in the ball game, if you go back and remember, Keyonte turns it over on back-to-back possessions in a pretty key moment of that fourth quarter with 4:17 left. Keyonte can't get the ball up to the front court. Najee Marshall picks him before half court, takes it and dunks it. And then out of the timeout, Keyonte drives, gets caught in the air and throws it away. That's at the 4:02 mark. I don't think Keyonte brings the ball up again the rest of the game. So in a sense, the Jazz last night in clutch time made that call already. The second thing is on the next play, to Keyonte's credit, he buries a three. No, he missed it, actually. I take it back. He missed it, but I love that he took it. That's actually, he missed it, but I love that he took it. We need to figure out a way to make Keyonte successful. Right now, Keyonte is shooting 34% from the floor and 32% from three. That's not NBA caliber. That's not going to work. It's been 10 games, though. I did say 30. I'm gonna waver off. At the beginning of the year, I said I need 30 games to see where Keyonte's shooting is after not shooting well enough his first year. I need more time. I'm giving him more time. I don't think after 30 games I'm putting the verdict down. But if you're the coaching staff and he's turning the ball over too much, and he's shooting 34% from three and 32% from three, 34% from the field and 32% from three. And by the way, I've dug into this. There's actually some reasons for optimism here in Keyonte. If you kind of dig into where his shooting is not good and where it is good, like it actually looks like it should come back together. I'm pretty optimistic that this is going to be a blip on the radar screen and that I think that you're going to see this come back around. And I'll do that on Monday or Tuesday this week. We'll have 2 games to match up on Monday, so maybe that'll be Tuesday of next week. If you just kind of dig in, I dug in pretty deep into Keyonte the other day, trying to figure out what was going on and where he's missing shots and what shots he's missing. And compared to what he did in his opening year, I'm actually optimistic that I think some of this is going to come back together. And frankly, you're kind of seeing it. Like his shooting numbers are getting a subtle bit better each and every night. Like I think if you actually look at his last 5 games, I'm doing this on the fly right here, but he's 18 of his last about 39 from three. Like it's good. His overall shooting's only okay in that time period. But last night he's 5 of 10. Like there's just some real signs it looks better. But is there a chance that actually Keyonte's way for success is not to play the ball in his hands? We did something interesting last night. Isaiah Collier and Keyonte played together. I think that's the first time all year. And so Isaiah Collier was playing the point guard. Do we suddenly play Patty Mills and Keyonte together a little bit? Do we start Jordan Clarkson and let Jordan Clarkson play point guard, which is kind of a crazy concept if you're at that point. I think this is a very legitimate question. And I would phrase it a little bit as, what is the best way for Keyonte to have success without having the entire team turned over just to do that? What is the best way for Keyonte to have success? And would it be that he's not playing point guard? Because his handle really isn't that tight, and he does have a hard time getting the ball up the floor. And when he's pressured, it's hard for him. And the book is out. The book started last year when Aaron Holiday stripped him in the backcourt, and it hasn't changed. The book is already out on Kyle Filipowski wanting to spin. It took 24 hours. This league is brutal. So the book is out. Pick Keyonte up 94 feet, and you'll get one. Would we help him out if he's suddenly playing off the ball, coming off the pin downs, doing that kind of stuff, and playing in that manner? Maybe. I think we'll see more and more of it here coming up. At what point do the Jazz need to look at trading Jordan Clarkson and John Collins, even if for net neutral returns? Watching us win those 2 games close is fun, so this kind of falls into a bunch of the same stuff. One is, are we winning too much? And 2, John Collins' trade value may be as high as it's ever been since we acquired him. Could now be the right time to move. So this gets into kind of 2 parts. One is, at some point, are you unloading guys to create the same thing we created the last few years and add an extra asset, right? Kyle Filipowski, I think is the Simone Fontecchio trade Might turn out to be a really good trade by the Jazz. Kyle Filipowski's been really, really good. So that, let's watch and see what happens. Isaiah Collier, we'll see if it works out. Ochai Agbaji's playing pretty well. But that was that trade. So John Collins is playing great and could help someone. John Collins is making $26.6 million this year, so you have to bring that back. That's the first thing. Well, we don't have to, but the chances are the team you're trading with is trying to win championships up close to 8 rings, and you have to. And then he has a player option for 26.5 next year. So, yes, I mean, John's playing brilliantly and showing great value and doing all sorts of things. And so the next question you have to decide is 27-year-old John Collins going to be a part of the franchise when we get better? And is he the type of person you want around in that meantime? Well, that answer is yes. He's got great energy. He's super positive. He plays hard. He exudes all the right juices around the players. So you might decide that, yeah, you know what? We need to have some people around that are a semblance of order, that understand how to play and are good, are well done. Jordan Clarkson is at $14 million, super tradable contract, and $14 million the next year. The problem is Jordan was really good to close the game last night, so it's weird to talk about this. He's not shooting very well. Jordan's shooting 40% for the floor and 31% from three, which is right on what he did last year too. So Jordan, I think, needs to prove that he can be more efficient, or else there's not any good team that's going to want to trade for him. Like that one, I just don't think there's a market. John Collins is playing brilliantly. I think teams are looking around and looking at John Collins and saying, all right, he could help us win games. We've got a gap here. What could we do with him? How does he fit in? And then the tricky thing, though, is if you're a good basketball team and you're trading for John Collins, you likely have to send $26 million in contract back to the Jazz. Plus, I don't know if you're getting a first-round draft pick for him if you're the Jazz, but you're getting something. And that team has to then be willing to unleash $26 million off their books. For example, the Phoenix Suns could really use John Collins. They have to trade dollar for dollar. They can't aggregate deals because they're over the apron, and they don't have anybody making $26 million. The Milwaukee Bucks are in desperate need of something, but I guess they might be able, I'd have to look at it closely. They might be able to trade Brook Lopez, but that changes them pretty dramatically if they trade Brook Lopez. I don't know if they can aggregate deals, but to get to $26 million, they're suddenly having to throw together Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, and one of their young kids. That, getting rid of Bobby Portis for John Collins is not going to make them better. It's a super complicated thing to do. Have I caught any Utah hockey games? I love watching them on SEG Plus. I went to the opener, and I'm hoping to go to some more games. We're on a pretty heavy travel schedule right now, so I'm going to take my nights at home, but I love having them here. Super fun. And tonight against Las Vegas should be nuts at the arena. Thanks so much for tuning in on the video side of things. We'll send you over to the first ever national 24/7 channel, Locked On NBA. Sign up for the newsletter at Locked On Daily and check out the 2 times a day Locked On NBA show. Have a great one.